قالوا لئن لم تنته يا نوح لتكونن من المرجومين.
They said, O Noah, peace be upon him, if you do not desist, you will certainly become one of the accursed.
84. The words in the text may have two meanings. 1. You will be stoned to death. 2. You will be showered with abuses from all sides, and cursed and reviled wherever you go.
قال رب إن قومي كذبون.
He said, My Lord, my people have branded me a liar.
85. That is, they have rejected me completely and absolutely, and now there is no hope of their becoming believers. Here nobody should have the misunderstanding that just after this conversation between Prophet Noah, peace be upon him, and the chiefs of his people, and the rejection of his message by them, the Prophet submitted a report to Allah that his people had rejected him and now he should settle the accounts between them. The Quran has mentioned at different places the details of the long struggle that went on for centuries between Prophet Noah, peace be upon him, and his people, who persisted in unbelief. According to verse 14 of Surah Al-Ankabut, the struggle continued for 950 years. He, Noah, remained among them for 1,000 years save 50 years. Prophet Noah during this long period studied their collective behavior, generation after generation, and came to the conclusion that they had no inclination to accept the truth, and formed the opinion that in their future generations also there was no hope of anybody becoming a believer and adopting the righteous attitude. My Lord, if you should leave them, they will lead your servants astray, and they will bear as children none but sinners and disbelievers. Surah Nuh, Ayat 27. Allah himself confirmed this opinion of Noah, saying, No more of your people will believe in you now than those who have already believed. So do not grieve at their misdeeds. Surah Hud, Ayat 36.
فافتح بيني وبينهم فتحا ونجني ومن معي من المؤمنين.
So pass a clear judgment between me and them, and rescue me and the believers with me.
86. You should not only give your judgment as to who is in the right and who is in the wrong, but deliver your judgment in such a manner that the followers of the truth are saved and the followers of falsehood are completely annihilated from the earth.
فَأَنْجَيْنَاهُ وَمَنْ مَعَهُ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونِ.
Thereafter, we rescued him, and those who were with him in the laden ark.
87. Laden ship, because the ship became loaded with the believers and the pairs of animals from every species. For further details, see Surah Hud, Ayat 40.
And those who were with him in the laden ark.
ثُمَّ أَغْرَقْنَا بَعْدُ الْبَاقِينَ.
And drowned the rest.
إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً وَمَا كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُم مُؤْمِنِينَ.
Surely, there is a sign in this, but most of them would not believe.
وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ.
Verily, your Lord is immensely mighty, ever compassionate.
كذبت عاد المرسلين.
The Ad gave the lie to the messengers.
88. For comparison, see Surah Al-Araf, Ayats 65 to 72, Surah Hud, Ayats 50 to 60, and for further details of this story, see Surah Hamim Sajda, Ayats 13 to 16, Surah Al-Ahqaf, Ayats 21 to 26, Surah Az-Zariyat, Ayats 41, 45, Surah Al-Qamar, Ayats 18 to 22, Surah Al-Haqqa, Ayats 4 to 8, and Surah Al-Fajr, Ayats 6 to 8.
إِذْ قَالَ لَهُمْ أَخُوهُمْ هُودٌ أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ.
Recall when their brother Hud said to them, Have you no fear?
89. In order to understand this discourse of Prophet Hud fully, we should keep in mind the various details about the people of Ad which the Quran has given at different places. For instance, it says sad face 1. After the destruction of the people of Noah, peace be upon him, the Ad were given power and prominence in the world. Do not forget that after Noah's people your Lord made you the successors. Surah Al-Araf, Ayat 69, 2. Physically they were very robust and powerful people, and made you very robust. Surah Al-Araf, Ayat 69, 3. They had no parallel as a nation in the world, the like of which was not created in the lands. Surah Al-Fajr, Ayat 8, 4. They were civilized and were well known in the world for their great skill and art in erecting lofty buildings with tall columns. Have you not seen what your Lord did with Ad Lam, of lofty columns? Surah Al-Fajr, Ayat 6, 7, 5. This material progress and physical power had made them arrogant and vain. As for Ad, they deviated from the right path and adopted an arrogant attitude in the land and said, "Who is mightier than us in power?" 6. Their political power was in the hands of a few tyrants before whom none could dare raise his voice, and they followed and obeyed every tyrannous enemy of the truth. Surah Hud, Ayat 59, 7. They were not disbelievers in the existence of Allah, but were involved in shirk. They only denied that Allah alone should be worshipped and none else. They said, to Hud, "Have you come to us with the demand that we should worship Allah alone and discard those whom our elders have been worshipping?" Surah Al-Araf, Ayat 70.
إني لكم رسول أمين.
I am a trustworthy messenger to you.
فاتقوا الله وأطيعون.
So fear Allah and obey me.
وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين.
I seek of you no reward for this. My reward is with none but the Lord of the universe.
أتبنون بكل ريع آية تعبثون.
What? You build a monument on every hill merely for fun?
90. That is, you build grand buildings merely to show off your wealth and power, whereas they have no use and purpose except that they stand as monuments to your grandeur and glory.
وتتخذون مصانع لعلكم تخلدون.
And erect huge palaces as though you will live forever?
91. That is, though you have built other buildings also for dwelling purposes, in order to make them grand, beautiful and strong, you expend your wealth and mental and physical abilities in a manner as if you were going to live forever, and there was no purpose of life except seeking of comfort and pleasure and nothing beyond this worldly life which might deserve your attention. In this connection, one should bear in mind the fact that extravagance in architecture is not a solitary vice in a people. This happens as a result of a people's becoming affluent and then crazy for selfish gains and materialistic pursuits. When a people reach such a stage, their whole social system becomes corrupted and polluted. Prophet Hud's, peace be upon him, criticism of his people's extravagant and luxurious architecture was not simply aimed at the high castles and monuments, but he was actually criticizing their corrupt civilization and social system, whose glaring symptoms could be seen everywhere in the land in the shape of castles and monuments.
وَإِذَا بَطَشْتُمْ بَطَشْتُمْ جَبَّارِينَ.
And when you strike like tyrants?
92. That is, in order to meet the demands of your ever-rising standards of life, you do not rest content with small living quarters but you build castles and fortresses, and yet being unsatisfied you erect lofty edifices unnecessarily just for ostentation. But as human beings you have become so depraved that there is no mercy in your hearts for the weak, no justice for the poor, and all people of lower social strata, living inside or around your land, are being oppressed tyrannically and none is safe from your barbarities.
فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُونَ.
So fear Allah and obey me.
وَاتَّقُوا الَّذِي أَمَدَّكُم بِمَا تَعْلَمُونَ.
Have fear of Him who has provided you with all the good things you know.
أَمَدَّكُم بِأَنْعَامٍ وَبَنِينَ.
Who has provided you with flocks and children.
وَجَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ.
and with gardens and springs.
إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم.
I fear for you the chastisement of an awesome day.
قالوا سواء علينا أوعظت أم لم تكن من الواعظين.
They replied, "It is all the same for us whether you admonish us or not.
إن هذا إلا خلق الأولين."
This has been happening all along.
93. This can have two meanings. 1. Whatever we are doing is not new but has been happening from the time of our elders since centuries. They had the same creed, the same way of life, the same morality and the same kind of dealings, and yet they remained unharmed and safe from every calamity. If there was any evil in this way of life, we should have met the doom with which you are threatening us. 2. The things you are preaching have also been preached and said before by religious maniacs and so-called moralists, but they could not change the ways of the world. It has never happened that the world suffered a disaster only because people refused to listen to preachers like you.
وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُعَذَّبِينَ.
We will not be subjected to any chastisement.
فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَأَهْلَكْنَاهُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً وَمَا كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُم مُؤْمِنِينَ.
Eventually, they gave the lie to him, and we destroyed them. Surely, there is a sign in this, but most of them would not believe.
94. According to the Quran, the people of Ad were destroyed by a violent windstorm. When they saw it advancing towards their valleys, they rejoiced with the hope that those were dense clouds which would bring much rain for them, but in reality it was Allah's scourge. The windstorm continued to rage for 8 days and 7 nights and destroyed everything. The people were swept away like straw, and everything on which the hot, dry wind blew was left rotting. The storm did not abate until the last man of the wicked tribe had met his doom. Only ruins of their habitations remained to tell the tale of their terrible fate, and today even the ruins have become extinct. The whole territory of Ahqaf has turned into dreadful desert dunes. For details, see En. 25 of Surah Al-Ahqaf.
وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ.
Verily, your Lord is immensely mighty, most compassionate.
كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ.
The Thamud gave the lie to the messengers.
95. For comparison, see Surah Al-Araf, ayats 73-79, Surah Hud, ayats 61-68, Surah Al-Hijr, ayats 80-84, Surah Bani Israel, ayat 59, and for further details, see Surah An-Nam, ayats 45-53, Surah Az-Zariyat, ayats 43-45, Surah Al-Qamar, ayats 23-31, Surah Al-Haqqa, ayats 4-5, Surah Al-Fajr, ayat 9, and Surah Ash-Shams, ayat 11. Thamud achieved power and glory after the destruction of Ad, and as far as progress in civilization is concerned, they followed in the footsteps of their predecessors. In their case, too, the standards of living went on rising higher and higher, and the standards of humanity continued to fall lower and lower, suffering one deterioration after the other. On the one hand, they erected large edifices on the plains and hewed beautiful houses out of the hills like those in the caves of Ellora and Ajanta in India, and on the other hand, they became addicted to idol worship, and the land was filled with tyranny and oppression. The worst men became leaders and rulers in the land. As such, Prophet Saleh's, peace be upon him, message of truth only appealed to the weak people belonging to the lower social strata, and the people of the upper classes refused to believe in him.
إِذْ قَالَ لَهُمْ أَخُوهُمْ صَالِحٌ أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ.
Recall when their brother Saleh said to them, "Have you no fear?
إِنِّي لَكُمْ رَسُولٌ أَمِينٌ.
I am a trustworthy messenger to you.
96. According to the Quran, the people of Prophet Saleh, peace be upon him, themselves admitted that he was a man of great integrity and extraordinary caliber. They said, O Saleh, till now you were such a person among us of whom we had great expectations. Surah Hud, Ayat 62.
اتقوا الله وأطيعون.
So fear Allah and obey me.
وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين.
I ask of you no reward. My reward is with none but the Lord of the universe.
أتتركون فيما هاهنا آمنين.
Do you believe that you will be left here to live securely in the present state?
97. That is, do you consider that your life of indulgence and pleasure is everlasting, and you will never be asked to account for Allah's favors to you and for your own misdeeds?
في جنات وعيون.
Amidst gardens and springs.
وزروع ونخل طلعها هضيم.
And cornfields and date palms laden with juicy fruits.
وتنحتون من الجبال بيوتا فارهين.
You hew dwellings in mountains and exalt in that.
98. Hadim, heavy bunches of ripe, juicy and soft date palm fruit hanging from trees. 99. Just as the most prominent feature of the Ad civilization was that they built large edifices with high pillars, so the most prominent feature of the Thamud civilization for which they were known among the ancient peoples was that they carved out dwellings in the hills. That is why in Surah Al-Fajr, the Ad have been referred to as people of the pillars, and the Thamud as those who hewed rocks in the valley. These people also built castles on the plains, the purpose and object of which was nothing but display of wealth and power and architectural skill, as there was no real necessity for them. These are, in fact, the ways of the perverted people. The poor among them do not have proper shelters, and the wealthy members not only have sufficient fine dwellings but over and above those they raise monuments for ostentation and display. Some of these Thamudic works exist even today, which I have seen in December 1959. This place is situated between Al-Madinah and Tabuk, a few miles to the north of Al-Ula, Wad el-Qura of the Prophet's time, in Hejaz. The local inhabitants call it Al-Hijr and Madan Saleh even today. Al-Ula is still a green and fertile valley abounding in water springs and gardens, but Al-Hijr appears to be an abandoned place. It has thin population, little greenery and a few wells, one of which is said to be the one at which Prophet Saleh's, peace be upon him, she-camel used to drink water. This well is now dry and located within a deserted military post of the time of the Turks. When we entered this territory and approached Al-Ula, we found hills which seemed to have been shattered to pieces from top to bottom as if by a violent earthquake. We saw the same kind of hills while traveling to the east, from Al-Ula to Khaba, for about 50 miles, and towards the north inside Jordan, for about 30 to 40 miles. This indicated that an area, stretching well over 300 to 400 miles in length and 100 miles in width had been devastated by the terrible earthquake. A few of the Thamudic-type monuments that we saw at Al-Hijr were also found at Madyam along the Gulf of Aqaba and at Petra in Jordan. At Petra, especially, the Thamudic and Nabatean works stand side by side, and their styles and architectural designs are so different that anyone who examines them will find that they were neither built in the same age nor by the same nation. Doughty, the British Orientalist, in his attempt to prove the Quran as false, has claimed that the works found at Al-Hijr were not carved out by Thamud but by the Nabateans. I am of the view that the art of carving houses out of the rock started with the Thamud, and thousands of years later, in the 2nd and 1st centuries BC, it was considerably developed by the Nabateans and it reached perfection in the works of the caves of El-Lora, which were carved out about 700 years after Petra.
Fear Allah and obey me.
ولا تطيعوا أمر المسرفين.
And do not follow the bidding of those that go to excesses.
الذين يفسدون في الأرض ولا يصلحون.
And spread mischief in the land rather than set things right.
100. That is, you should give up obedience to your chiefs, guides and rulers under whose leadership you are following an evil way of life. These people have transgressed all bounds of morality. They cannot bring about any reforms and they will corrupt every system of life that they adopt. The only way for you towards success and well-being is that you should inculcate fear of God, give up obedience to the misguided and obey me, because I am God's messenger. You are fully aware of my honesty and integrity. I have no personal interest and motive for undertaking the work of reform. This was in short the manifesto which Prophet Saleh, peace be upon him, presented before his people. It not only contained the religious message but invitation to cultural, moral and political revolution as well.